At dawn, a cowboy cut the chains of an Apache woman expecting gratitude, but her first words shocked him. "I'd rather die than be yours." What followed wasn't a love story. It was a journey of trust, freedom, and unexpected hope. Watch till the end to see how everything changed. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and support the channel. At dawn, the cold wind swept across the endless plains of Montana, carrying dust and silence over the empty land. Ethan Walker rode slowly beside the faint tracks left by an abandoned wagon. He had noticed them the previous evening and followed them through the dark without knowing exactly what he would find. Out here, people disappeared without anyone asking questions. As the first pale light appeared on the horizon, Ethan finally reached the broken wagon, standing alone in the open field. One wheel had collapsed. Scattered crates surrounded it. Something felt wrong. He stepped down from his horse and moved carefully toward the wreck. Behind the wagon, partly hidden by shattered wooden boxes, Ethan stopped. A young Apache woman sat chained to a thick post fixed into the ground. Her clothes were dusty and torn from travel, and her wrists showed red marks where the metal had rubbed against her skin. She looked exhausted but not defeated. The moment she noticed him, she straightened and stared directly into his eyes without fear. Ethan had seen frightened people before, but this was different. Her expression carried anger and determination. Without speaking, he slowly pulled out his knife. The woman tensed, expecting something worse instead of rescue. Ethan crouched beside the chains and carefully cut through the ropes holding the metal in place. After several seconds, the restraints fell to the ground with a dull sound. The woman instantly stepped back and kept her distance. She lifted her chin proudly and said in a cold voice, "I'd rather die than be yours." Ethan looked at her for a moment before sliding the knife back into its sheath. His expression did not change. "Then don't be," he answered quietly. "You're free." The woman frowned as if she had misunderstood. Men who found someone helpless usually expected payment, obedience, or gratitude. This answer confused her. She watched Ethan closely, waiting for him to reveal his real intentions. Instead, he walked to his saddlebag, removed a canteen of water, and placed it on a crate several steps away from her. He did not move closer. Then he pointed toward the distant sunrise stretching across the horizon. "You choose," he said simply. The woman looked at the open land. Freedom sounded easy until she remembered she had no horse, no supplies, and nowhere safe to reach before nightfall. Ethan returned to his horse and waited without pressure. For several long minutes, neither of them spoke. At last, she picked up the water and drank slowly while keeping her eyes on him. Ethan asked no questions about her name, her tribe, or how she ended up there. He only turned his horse toward the west and started riding at a calm pace. After standing alone for another moment, the woman followed from a distance. She told herself it was temporary and only because she had no other choice. Yet as they crossed the silent plains beneath the growing morning light, one thought stayed in her mind. Why had the cowboy who saved her expected nothing in return? By the time evening settled over the hills, Ethan's small ranch finally appeared in the distance. It wasn't grand or impressive, just a weathered wooden house, a barn, a water pump, and long fences stretching across quiet land. Ethan tied his horse and looked toward Ayanna. He pointed toward the porch and said she could eat and rest if she wanted. But Ayanna remained standing near the gate. She had spent 2 long surviving promises that later became traps. Instead of entering the house, she chose a spot beneath the open sky and sat quietly under the stars, keeping distance between them. Ethan didn't argue or insist. He left a blanket, food, and water near the porch and went inside alone. The next morning, Ayanna expected questions or rules, but none came. Ethan worked from sunrise until evening, without asking about her past or making demands. If she wanted breakfast, he left some ready. If she wanted silence, he gave her silence. Days passed in this strange routine. Ayanna remained cautious, watching him carefully. She noticed that Ethan spoke gently to his horses and repaired things instead of replacing them. Slowly, she stopped expecting every kind action to carry a hidden price. One cool morning, Ayana woke before sunrise and walked across the ranch. She found Ethan repairing a broken section of fence alone. He moved steadily, lifting wood and hammering posts into place. Without speaking, she picked up a spare hammer lying nearby and started helping. Ethan glanced at her but didn't look surprised. After a while, he smiled and said, "You don't have to." Ayana kept working and answered quietly, "Neither did you." The words surprised even her. For the first time since arriving, she realized she had chosen to do something instead of acting from fear. Later that day, they sat outside while the sky turned orange. Ayana stared at the distant hills for a long time before finally speaking. Her voice remained calm, but each sentence carried old pain. She told Ethan about the raid that destroyed everything she knew. She told him how she had been taken, moved from place to place, and treated like something people could own. She explained that after enough betrayal, trusting anyone started to feel more dangerous than being alone. Ethan listened without interrupting. He asked for no details she didn't want to give. When she finished, silence returned. Ethan looked toward the horizon and said only one thing: "Your past isn't your future." No speeches, no promises, just simple words. Ayana lowered her eyes and thought about them. The next morning she stood outside as the sun slowly rose over the hills and painted the land gold. She remembered the moment her chains had fallen and realized something she hadn't understood before. Freedom wasn't simply walking away from captivity. Real freedom was finding a place where no one tried to own your choices. For the first time in years, she felt the beginning of peace.